Belleville Sens podcast is back for another week, season number 3, episode 7, from the Jack Miller Press Box and Media Center at CAA Arena. David Foote and Brock Ormond here for another week as the Sens recuperate from the Battle of Ontario and prepare for a little bit of a lighter week this week in the sense that they don't have to play back-to-back games. That'll be nice, but there is a Wednesday visit from the Providence Bruins and a Saturday visit to the Crunch in Syracuse. So a lot happening this week, and some big news as well on the roster front that we'll touch on this week's show. We'll actually hear from the now newest Belleville Senator, announced this morning. Monday the 28th of October is our recording date this week, and Malcolm Subban has been signed to a one-year AHL contract. The 30-year-old goaltender returns to the city where he played over 100 games as a member of the Belleville Bulls, and becomes the second Belleville Bulls alumni to play for this squad. We will talk about that throughout the course of the show. We'll hear from Malcolm as well. We'll also hear from some of the guys who had good performances on the weekend, like Keean Washkurak and Matthew Highmore, and Leevi Merilainen, who was outstanding over both games against the Toronto Marlies last weekend. Before we get into things, the usual reminder: subscribe to the show wherever you're listening. Toss us a rating and a review. We'd really appreciate that as we continue on through Season 3 of the Belleville Sens podcast. Looking at last weekend, Brock, it turned out, I think, kind of as we expected, at least in the sense that it was a couple of really tight, competitive games between the provincial rivals from Belleville and Toronto. Yeah, it was two really good games, both ending in shootouts, and both teams picking up a win, so you couldn't get much more even than that, and it was a great series. Both teams hitting hard, and both teams had great goaltending as well, in particular on the Saturday night game. Merilainen and Hilda both stood on their heads, and in the end, the Sens do pick up 3 out of a possible 4 points again, so it's progress, and 5 out of possible 6 games with points is nothing to shake your head at for sure. So good start for the Sens, and if the first 2 games are any indication, this Battle of Ontario should be another exciting one, and a physical one as well. Yeah, had a similar conversation with the voice of the Marlies, Todd Crocker, before the game on Saturday night, and we said the same thing. You know, it's always fun when these two teams get together, but it's not always as tight as these first 2 games were, so hopefully that's a trend for the way that this series is going to go, with 8 more games still between Belleville and Toronto to be played. The next one won't be until November the 16th, when the Sens visit the Marlies at Scotiabank Arena, the home of their parent club, the Toronto Maple Leafs. So that'll be a lot of fun. But let's go back to Friday night. There was a lot of question about how the Sens would handle a few things. 1, coming off the home ice loss to Syracuse the week before. 2, the general, readjustment to getting back into the swing of the season and the grind of the schedule, etc. And then day of travel, which they did do in Syracuse on the road a few weeks ago, but haven't done yet into the big city this season. And it did seem like the bus legs might have been a factor early on in the game, Brock, Friday. I think it took Belleville like 15 minutes or so to really find themselves, but then they score late in the first period. They end up going up 2-0 in the second. Toronto comes back and ties it. Oscar Pettersson scores his first of the year to put Belleville back in front, and then the Marlies get an early third-period goal and dominate overtime, because they also had a power play, did Toronto, in that extra time frame that the Sens were able to withstand. And it comes to the skills competition, and posts end up making the difference on Friday night in Toronto. But all in all, a nice performance from the Senators on the road against, at the time, the only unbeaten team still in the American Hockey League. Yeah, great effort all the way around. And, yeah, it's like going back to the junior days with the day of bus trips, a couple hours into the big city and having to shake it off after a couple of hours. So very different scenario for these guys, but they found a way to at least squeeze out a point. And, yeah, they were up 2-0 and 3-2. And Toronto just kept pushing, and that's the kind of mentality that the Marlies have had all season, is just keep grinding away and keep chipping at these opponents. And they knew it was going to be a tough fight with the Belleville Sens in town, and they managed to pull out the victory. And again, inches away from the Sens potentially winning both games in the shootout with the way things went. So it was a good Friday effort, and they did pick up a point. But again, as David Bell said, or kind of alluded to afterwards, those points are big at this point in time. But
they got to find a way to start digging deeper and winning those games, so they don't have to be involved in those plays where it's inches away from potentially winning a game in a shootout.
And another high note on Friday was Keean Washkurak getting off the mark, I should say, on the offensive side, a goal and an assist for him as he joins the Senators. We caught up with him after the game in Toronto on Friday to chat about that and to chat about joining the Senators from the Springfield Thunderbirds, where he's played the last few seasons. Here with the Sens forward, Keean Washkurak scores his first as a Senator tonight, had an assist as well. How did you feel about the game overall first?
I thought that, we played a good 40 minutes. We kind of had a little bit of breakdowns, but for the most part, I thought that we played pretty well. But it's just unfortunate that, we couldn't bury it in the shootout.
Second time that's happened this season, too, and I'm sure it's not the last shootout you guys will face. But what did you like about your team's game through those opening 40 minutes and I suppose the resiliency throughout the night?
We didn't really let them get into their offensive game. I thought that we had control down low. We were on their D. We were forcing them to turn over pucks and getting pucks right to the net. Our transition game was really well. And,
you've played the Toronto Marlies before, but your first time in the Battle of Ontario, so to speak. Was it any different? How did you find things?
There's a lot of scrums, I guess, basically. It was a little different, but I thought it was good. It's a good battle. We play them a lot more, so I'm ready for that, yeah.
Chatting with Sens forward Keean Washkurak. We haven't chatted since you got here, so if you could indulge me, I'd like to ask a couple more questions. Sure. Just about coming to Belleville in the first place, how did it kind of develop, and why was this an attractive spot for you to land?
I played with Izzy, so, I kind of talked to him in the summer about it. He said it was a really good spot. I thought it was a good spot for me. Me and my agent talked, so, I know when I signed, Bellsy called me. He said he liked the way that I play, so I just kind of brought that here, and that's kind of how it ended up.
What are the first impressions, I guess, like of the city, the facilities, that sort of thing, and your teammates, of course?
It's nice being kind of close to home rather than in Springfield, 8 hours away. I'm only 3, so it's nice that the family can kind of come up. It's a small city, but I'm kind of used to that. There's a lot of little things to do, so. I've only been there for a little bit, but I'm excited about it.
We were talking to Borgie a couple weeks ago about the proximity to family. Like 3 hours to some people seems like a lot, but how important is it to you to get that much closer to home?
I haven't really been home for Christmas at all, so that's probably one. But my parents came up last week, stayed with me, so it kind of felt like I was back at home a little bit. But it's a huge thing, and it made me feel really comfortable, so it was good.
That's awesome, and you look comfortable in the lineup here as well. Lastly, let's just leave it on a rematch with the Marlies tomorrow. How can you guys improve the result?
I think just play the way that we did for 40 minutes. We play a complete 60 with the way that we played, and get on the forecheck, get pucks in the net, and just play our game.
There's Keean Washkurak getting his first couple of points as a member of the Belleville Senators in the Friday shootout loss in Toronto. He mentioned the keys to the game for Saturday in the rematch on home ice, and a little bit lower scoring, Brock, but we did see a very similar game. Again, a lot of chances. Both goaltenders were excellent. It was Dennis Hill to be back from the NHL against Merilainen on back-to-back nights. And, physical, exciting, and just everything that we expect to see and that we like to see out of the Battle of Ontario.
Yeah, it was quite the battle. It really lived up to its name on Saturday night, and neither team had a whole lot of room to produce offense, but it was thanks to largely the play of Merilainen and Hildeby. 33 saves for Hildeby, 23 for Merilainen, and the Finn got the first star as well for that effort, stopping all 3 shootout shots as well. Couple of close calls as well, though. Both teams hit posts and crossbars late in the third and in overtime, which was absolutely the difference maker. Ended up going to the shootout, and Matt Highmore, who missed on a penalty shot in overtime, which would have been absolutely been incredible, would have brought the house down if he had scored that. He goes into the shootout, toe drags on Hildeby, waits for him to go down, pops it over the top of him, and sends the Toronto Marlies to the loss column for the first time this season in 7 games. That's a nice little feather in the cap right there for the Belleville Senators, and it's a pretty good crowd too, about 3,200, especially given that there was a dog show. There was the Red Devils playing against Barrie over on the other rink, and of course other hockey going on.
Bearcats were in action
as well.
Too, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and a lot of other happenings around the Quinte region. So good crowd for the Toronto Marlies, first round of the Battle of Ontario, and it ended very, very well for the Belleville Sens. 3 out of 4 points on the weekend, including that big shootout victory, thanks to Matt Highmore.
Yeah, Highmore also missed in the shootout on Friday night as well. Then, like you mentioned, missed on that penalty shot in overtime, so it was third time's charm for Matt Highmore. Actually, let's hear from Matt Highmore about the shootout winner, because we spoke to him after the game. In fact, Tyler King spoke to Heisey after the game on Saturday to ask him about coming back and getting a few cracks at the goaltender Dennis Hildeby on a breakaway.
Matthew, can you describe for us the sense of relief that goes through you and the entire team when that shootout winner finally finds the back of the net after a really tough night and a well-deserved win?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we fought hard. Wasn't perfect. Obviously, we want to continue to kind of build on our game, but wins help with that, and it's a big one for us.
Take me through your move on that shootout a little bit, and how much did what you learned on the penalty shot earlier kind of play into it as well?
Yeah, I definitely learned a lot on the first one. Unfortunately, that didn't go in, but yeah, I mean, I just tried to outweight him and read and react off that, and lucky enough for winning.
How did you guys evaluate the weekend overall? I mean, these are the kinds of games we're probably going to expect between you guys and Toronto, two very deep, very skilled teams. When games like that are going to go down to the wire all season, as a veteran, what in your mind makes the difference in games like that?
Yeah, I mean, first off, we're just continuing to build our game, round it out, and gain more experience going into those games. It's going to be tight checking. They have a really good team over there, so we just want to keep working on our game, understanding what makes us tick, and getting better from there.
What did you guys think of what Leevi Merilainen gave you these last two nights? I mean, a guy had a lot of hockey to play, a lot of big saves to make, and how much of an effect did that have on the rest of the team, too?
Oh, yeah, I mean, listen, he was stellar. Both nights he was super good for us, held us in there when we got a little bit stray from our game, and he's an amazing goalie, calms us down back there, and a great weekend for him.
Right, that's Matt Highmore with Tyler King after the game on Saturday night, the 2-1 shootout win over the Toronto Marlies. Highmore had the shootout winner. Maybe just a quick thought on Matt Highmore, Brock. It's really nice to have him back, not just because of the type of guy he is, the personality, but he brings that veteran leadership. He brings a whole lot of skill, and he's the type of guy that's really going to pave the way for the young players in terms of the things that you have to do to be successful as a pro in the American Hockey League.
Yeah, Highmore has been everything that's been asked of him and more, and again, he could have been, likely is maybe a smidge disappointed that he got passed through waivers by the Ottawa Senators, but he's back here, and he doesn't let it affect him. He's been every bit the leader and the overall great player and great teammate that has been expected of him, and that he has been over the last couple seasons here in Belleville. And David Bell, you could see put him right back in those types of situations, which was great to see. And he ends up getting the chance in the shootout twice. Doesn't score on Friday, does score the big winner on the Saturday night. So that's the kind of thing that the coach does. He puts guys in the situations that they thrive in, and Matt Highmore certainly does. He's a top six forward. He's got a lot of skill, a lot of talent, and again, sometimes when you go from junior, like the QMJHL, for instance, where Highmore was, to pro hockey, it can be a major adjustment, and he's been there for a while now, but now it's starting to really click for him. He had a great split season last year, did deal with some injuries, and he's dealt with some injuries again this year to start, but certainly has been a key piece to this Belleville Sens offense, and certainly the Sens will love having him back in the fold again to try and work things out and give the other guys somebody to use.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just more depth, and something that Dave Bell has talked about from the start of the season that this team has a bunch of this year, and it's super important because guys go down with injuries, guys get sick and have to miss games, guys go through slumps, and you need to be able to look around the bench and see who the next one up can be to help fill the net and move the offense forward. And the Senators are dealing with the injury bug again. Two players leaving the game against Toronto on Saturday here at home. Jan Yannick, who scored the only goal for the Sens, leaves at the end of the second period and had to be helped off. And then Hayden Hodgson leaving in the third. We've had no updates on either of them, nor on Matt Sogard, although you have to assume that it's not great news with Belleville signing another goaltender to an AHL contract in Malcolm Subban today. And again, we'll hear from Malcolm in just a little bit. But the Sens' depth is a key, and they're going to have to lean on that. They're also going to have to lean on the goaltenders and Leevi Merilainen, who is in his just second full pro season and now starting on back-to-back nights. And as we'll hear in a minute, not too concerned about that. And it's good that he's not, but I can understand if there is some concern from other circles around the club.
Yeah, and it's the confidence factor of, again, Coach Bell putting Leevi Merilainen in and trusting him on back-to-back starts. He could have easily thrown young Michael Simpson into the fire and let him figure out through trial by fire what the Battle of Ontario really is. And instead, he gives Leevi a chance to shine because he knows he can, and he's got that confidence, he's got that belief in him, and he did shine in that Saturday game. Of course, he played well in the Friday game as well. Actually made 26 stops, which was huge because Belleville only mustered 18 at the other end. But the Saturday game was the reverse, where Belleville got more shots, so that allowed Leevi an easier time somewhat of it to field the puck. And, defensively, the Sens did a good job of boxing out the Marlies too, which only helped Leevi see the puck better and not be as worn down by facing all that rubber. So he was great, and the only goal that was scored on Leevi was just a simply nice place one-timer by Alex Steeves, right off the far post it in. Couldn't have picked a more perfect spot to hit that shot. So for Leevi Merilainen, he should be very confident in his game, as you'll hear it.
He's recently passed Joey Decord in Belleville Sens games played and now wins. I believe he sits 5th in franchise history in both of those categories now. So let's hear from Leevi Merilainen after making back-to-back starts and helping the Sens earn 3 of 4 points in the Battle of Ontario last weekend.
Leevi, when you look back at this weekend, you were obviously relied on quite a bit by this team. How did you kind of manage the fatigue of 2 very hard-fought games, and how do you evaluate the way these last 2 nights went?
Yeah, so I don't think it's too big of a deal to play 2 games in a row. I've done that plenty of times before, so it's nothing new for me. And I think we played pretty well both games. Just didn't give them too much, and I didn't have to do too much either myself, like not many shots and stuff. And so that makes it easier.
Although there weren't many shots, the ones that did come, especially late in the games, there seemed to be a lot where you had to really use your lateral movement, make sure there weren't rebounds, make sure there weren't second opportunities. How much did you feel you kind of came through for this team and kind of helped lift their spirits late in games too?
Yeah, well, that's my job, to not allow the other team to score and keep the momentum, or keep them from getting too much. And I think I did a pretty good job at that. And I feel like I got better at the game when it went on more and more. They got a couple more chances there, and I feel like that helps me to play better when I get more shots against.
Yeah, and how good is your confidence right now that Coach Bell can put you in there when given the chance now to play and run with it? How good is your confidence knowing that you have the coach and everybody behind you and having your back?
Yeah, well, I think I feel confident in my game. Even though we had a couple of unfortunate games last week and stuff, didn't get the best of results. I felt like I played pretty well myself and felt confident in my game, even though I didn't get the results I kind of wanted. I still got I knew I'm doing pretty good if I just do my job as good as I can.
So there's Leevi Merilainen, and you talk about the confidence that Dave Bell has in putting him into the lineup, Brock. He's probably one of the most quiet, confident people you'll ever meet. He doesn't walk around with a lot of bravado. He's not a loud guy, but his play speaks for itself, and anytime you talk to him after a game, that's the type of interview that you get, the type of perspective you get from the kid that Coach Bell affectionately refers to as the Iceman.
Yeah, he's so calm, and that's a great nickname, very apt nickname for him. He's so cool and calm. Even when he's talking after the game, he still looks like he's very much in game mode. Just steely eyes, very confident in himself, and that's the kind of thing you need for a goaltender because, it's a little different when you're the only man between the pipes. You got up front, you got 2 other guys that can help you out. On D, you got 1 other guy to help you out. In net, you're all alone. Mm-hmm. So that's you need to just block everything out, and that's what he said he did. He just blocks everything out, stays calm, and just ice in his veins, and that's what he has. And we saw it last year, him coming off the bench in an elimination situation in the second round last year against the Cleveland Monsters, and played extremely well, gave the Sens a chance to win, and unfortunately it didn't work out the way the Sens hoped. But he didn't, after having not played at all in that playoffs, he comes in and was just incredible in that last game and could have very well willed the Sens to a fifth game in that series. So it's the kind of situation that he puts himself in and that the team puts him in, and he thrives every chance he gets. He's in there, and he's going to give your team a chance to win every night. And as the folks down in Kingston, when he was with the Frontenacs would know, he can win some of those big games. And again, nice to see him get a lot of support from his old junior mates and his junior fans in Kingston that can come down here to Belleville and watch him play. So he's got a lot of support here, even if he's miles and miles away from home.
Talk about the need for depth and the amount of that the organization has as we're heading to break. News breaking. Adam Gaudette, Cole Reinhardt have been loaned to Belleville from the Ottawa Senators, which means the reigning defending American Hockey League goal-scoring champ is on his way to the friendly city, and that is not a bad thing by any means. So we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll chat more goaltending. We will meet the newest Belleville Senator, but a man who is extremely familiar with the Bay of Quinte region. Malcolm Subban will join us when we come back. This is the Belleville Sens podcast, season number 3, episode number 7 on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network. We're back in a moment.
Skate into the holiday season with the Stars. Stars on Ice 2024 Holiday Tour with figure skating icon Elvis Stoico, Olympic medalist Caitlin Osmond, Caitlin Weaver and Andrew Poche, Keegan Messing, Satoko Miyahara, Elijah Balde, and more. Stars on Ice, coming to CAA Arena December 8th. Unwrap your tickets at starsonice.ca.
You're listening to the Belleville Sens podcast, season number 3, episode number 7, with myself, David Foote, and Brock Ormond. Practice continuing down on the ice here at CAA Arena, and the newest member of the squad is between the pipes. Malcolm Subban signed to an AHL contract by the Senators this morning. That is Monday, the 28th of October. Some questions surrounding Matt Sogard after he was hurt last week, and then obviously some question around young Michael Simpson because he's not proven at the pro level, and no questions, I think, around Leevi Merilainen, as we talked about in the last segment. But it's always nice to supplement your crease with a veteran guy who's got a ton of experience, hundreds of pro games, and Malcolm Subban will provide that exactly for the Belleville Senators here, at least for the time being.
Yeah, he'll fortify the crease for sure. Well, Malcolm Subban, and he's got a lot of pro experience, and it's really amazing to say that because it felt like he was just an 18, 19-year-old kid playing junior hockey here, and it's amazing how time can fly so fast. This is his 11th pro season. He started out with the Grand Rapids Griffins this year, but they've got a pretty loaded net right now with Sebastian Cossa, Ville Husso, and Carter Geilander up from Toledo. So that makes things a little tougher. It squeezes out a guy like Subban who just wants to play as a 30-year-old vet. So he comes to Belleville, and now he'll be paired with Leevi Merilainen. It seems like so far at practice, Malcolm's looked pretty good. Like he looks like a guy that's willing to step in to an AHL net and shine. And certainly a guy that has, again, the experience. He was drafted all the way back in 2012, 24th overall, round 1 by the Boston Bruins. And seems like that's a lot of hype for that kind of position, being drafted in the first round. But as everybody knows, it doesn't always work out. And unfortunately for Malcolm, he got into just a couple of stray games with the Boston Bruins, played with Providence mostly, and then has bounced around a little bit from Vegas to Chicago, Rockford, Buffalo, Rochester, Springfield, Cleveland, Columbus, and the list goes on and on. Now Belleville here, and he was, like I said, just in Grand Rapids. So, what you'll get with Malcolm Subban, again, calm presence in the net, and just an overall great guy from what I heard, and meeting Malcolm maybe once or twice here in Belleville as a fan. Couldn't ask for a much nicer guy. Very quiet sort, but certainly a lot different than his brothers. PK and Jordan were both the life of the party here in Belleville, but Malcolm was the type of guy that would just stand in the shadows, let his brothers take all the accolades and the spotlight, and he just goes in the net, stops pucks, and does it with a smile. And that's what Malcolm Subban is going to bring to this hockey club. And the pairing with Leevi Merilainen should look pretty good for the time being with Mads Søgaard on the shelf. And who knows, maybe if Malcolm plays well enough, he'll get to stay here for the long haul.
Yeah, and again, it is an AHL deal. It's not a PTO. It's not a tryout. So he's on the team. He's on the roster. And, yeah, how much he plays will depend on all those external factors like the play of Leevi Merilainen and the health of Mads Søgaard, etc. So, regardless, it's awesome to see a former Bulls player, and not just somebody who played here. No disrespect to Tyler Randall, who was the only other Bulls alumni to play for the Belleville Senators, but he was only briefly with the Bulls and briefly with the B-Sens, whereas Malcolm played 3 full seasons here. Obviously, you mentioned the family legacy that the Subbans have left in this city in the junior circles, with PK and Jordan also playing here as well. So it's just really cool to see somebody who spent their formative years in hockey in this city returning now at the pro level and still trying to make that jump to the NHL. Not much has changed really in 10 or 15 years when you think about it.
Nope, not at all. And he's still playing professional hockey, still trying to push himself. And it's very interesting that he's got a ton of experience in the American Hockey League, so he's no stranger to the AHL. He's not a new guy just coming up from junior or college. He's not a guy being flown in from Europe. He's an AHL vet through and through, and has played, of course, as I mentioned, 87 games in the NHL with various teams, and now he's here. And again, he's got to live up to the family legacy, but I don't think he thinks of it that way. I think he's just looking to, simply be competitive and be productive for this Belleville Sens squad. And it'd be very interesting to see him get in. We talked about it before going on. Him getting in against Providence, his old team, the first team that he played with, first ever professional team he played with under Bruce Cassidy, who's now coaching in Vegas in 2013-14 after leading the Bulls to a conference final appearance, a Game 7 no less, in 2013, just the year before. So it's interesting to kind of see everything come full circle, and being just the second former Bull and fourth former player with ties here to Belleville. I guess if you count Declan Carlisle from Syracuse with Wellington and that connection, he's the 5th player that's played locally here. But in terms of the Bulls, just him and Tyler Randall, and that's it. So it's a very exclusive club, and I'm sure Malcolm doesn't think of it that way, that he's trying to live up to a legacy or whatever. He just wants to play, and he wants to contribute, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. Yeah,
those other two connections you're mentioning, Anthony Popovich, another goaltender who backed up as an E-Bug a couple of seasons ago, and then last year, Josh Saprika gets in. Or is it Cam Saprika? It was Cam,
yep,
of course. I always get the two of them confused. They look very similar as well. But Cam Saprika was here for a few games and became the first Belleville-born player to actually get on the ice for the Sens. So there have been a few more local connections, and there will be more as we roll through season number 8 and beyond of AHL hockey here in the Quinte region. Why don't we hear from Malcolm Subban? Let's ask him about coming back to town and what he's hoping to get out of this experience back here in the friendly city with the Senators. The 30-year-old goaltender from Toronto, Malcolm Subban, our guest next on this 7th episode of Season 3 of the Belleville Sens podcast. Welcome back, first of all.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about how this deal kind of came together. Obviously, fairly quickly, but what have the past couple of days been like for you, and how did this work out from your perspective?
Yeah, obviously just not sure, what was going to happen, and then, the opportunity came up, and I heard it was Belleville, and I was really excited, I'm excited to get back here, and, know a few guys on the team too, which obviously helps, but, excited to get back here, see the city, and see my billets and stuff, it'd be fun, so.
Yeah, you've bounced around a little bit the last couple of seasons, Springfield, Cleveland, Rochester, etc., and some guys here because of those moves. What have the last couple of years been like for you?
Definitely an experience, good experience, just, getting around, meeting a lot of good people and stuff, it's been fun. And, I think it's the one thing I've noticed is just getting a better understanding of, the business side and, the league and how everything works. I think going to a lot of places and seeing a lot of places, you kind of gain that knowledge, just going around. So try to use that to my advantage and, try to better myself and spread that to the guys here and, to be a leader on the team, be one of the leaders, be a role model. So.
Yeah. In those travels, you've been back here a couple of times as a visitor, but not on the home side. What was it like walking into the home dressing room here today, and how much different is it from when you were here 10 or so years ago?
Yeah, it's a little different because this used to be the visiting side. Now it's the home side, so that part's different. But no, great setup here. It's awesome, to see a lot of the modern stuff, modern technology in here now. And it's a great room, great setup. So, using that to my advantage for sure.
Yeah. Chatting with goaltender Malcolm Subban. Have you talked to any of your old Belleville teammates or the family about being back? Obviously, the family connection runs strong here in the friendly city as well.
Yeah, I talked to Bruce Mackey about it. He had actually texted me. It was funny. He texted me on Saturday, man. I just said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I ended up seeing him here. So, and then I haven't talked to my Bills and stuff yet, but I actually talked to Austin Broussard about it, where I played with here. Yeah. So, for sure.
What are you most looking forward to about being back? What are you hoping to take from this experience and accomplish this year?
I think, just playing in front of this crowd again is going to be awesome. And, getting to see the city, getting to see, everyone that I was here with, my billets and stuff, that'll be really cool. And to see, I know a billet kids, seeing them all grown up. I had FaceTimed them a while back and seeing them, and now, and then went to dinner with them. So getting to hang out with them would be awesome. I know one of the kids plays guitar now, so I want to hear him play Alex. So, it's just great. It's going to be awesome to, be back here for sure. I'm excited.
It's funny because a lot of fans remember, you and Jordan running around here as youngsters when PK was playing. Now things are kind of coming back full circle again.
Exactly. I know. It's crazy, man. I'm sure they'll be up here too to watch some games and stuff. So it's amazing. I'm happy to be here, excited. I can't wait to see everyone. So it's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, super exciting. Potentially a chance to face one of your former teams on Wednesday. If that should happen, might be a unique experience.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's always great playing them. That's where I started off. So it's always special playing against them. But it'll be fun for sure.
You'll see a couple of the other forward teams as well throughout the season. Lastly, where do you kind of see yourself fitting in the crease here? You're kind of now the elder statesman in terms of goaltenders, and you've got young Leevi and Michael Simpson and Mads obviously here as well. How do you see yourself fitting in here as the season rolls along?
Oh, I think, just, trying to help them out as much as I can. And, obviously I haven't played, so just trying to, get my game back as quickly as I can for sure. And I'm rolling with the opportunity, whenever it comes. So I think that's my focus right now for sure.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you out there. Glad to have you back. Welcome back again, Malcolm.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Happy to be back.
There's Malcolm Subban, and he's obviously happy to be back. We're happy to have him back, and we haven't been able to gauge the fan base, get the temperature around town this morning after the news broke, because we literally hopped on to record the show as soon as we put that announcement out. But I got to think there's some buzz around town, and when you get back to the newsroom this afternoon, Brock, you might hear some of that as well, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely, and the city of Belleville was so happy to have Malcolm here, and again, as a fan and as a volunteer, I know you called the games back in the years he was here with the Bulls, and to have him back is just incredible, and I'm sure that he'll be dreaming of success here in Belleville, just like he did back in the day with the Bulls, and of course PK and Jordan will be thrilled, and the whole family really. His two sisters as well. I know Carl, his father, Maria's his mother. They spend a good chunk of their lives here, and there was some crossover as well between Malcolm and Jordan, which was also cool. But since the 2005-06 season was PK's first year, right up till the end of the Bulls' time, 14-15. So that's almost a full decade of the Subbans here in Belleville, maybe give or take one or two seasons where there wasn't a Subban on the roster. So it's incredible to think about. And for Malcolm to be back here in Belleville, it's like I said, a full circle moment. And this building looks a heck of a lot different than it did. Well, still the same and still different at the same time from when he was last here. But it's going to be a lot of memories flooding back for that man right there. And the Toronto native should be a big piece to this Sens team, and the pairing with Leevi Merilainen should carry the Sens forward and try to bank some early points in the early AHL season.
Yeah, he's been back with Providence, he's been back with Rochester, he's been back with Cleveland, but always on the other side. And now, Malcolm Subban returns, I should say, to Belleville on the right side of the ice as he will man the crease for the Sens after signing a one-year AHL deal this morning. Exciting times for sure. 2 games to come this week. 1 at home on Wednesday, 1 on the road on Saturday. We will tee those up for you when we return as we continue on this episode of the Belleville Sens podcast on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network. And forced to the right side. Bowers took it away. Reese took it back. Feeds Sabrango with a shot. Scores!
Be there for the next great Belleville Sens moment. Get your single-game tickets and experience Belleville Senators action live. Check out family 4-pack specials or score a Belleville Sens hat trick with a 3-game value pack. Tickets are on sale now through Ticketmaster or the Belleville Sens box office. For ticket info, group experiences, and more, visit BellevilleSens.com and be part of the team.
Donovan Sabrango makes it 4-0 Belleville. Third and final segment this week of the Belleville Sens podcast. David Foote and Brock Ormond here. Thanks to Malcolm Subban for taking some time after his first practice with the Senators to chat with us. And again, really exciting to see such a well-known player from his junior days here in Belleville back on the ice, representing the friendly city again. It's outstanding. And we look forward to seeing Malcolm in action this week, Brock, potentially on Wednesday night against his former team, one of his former teams, the Providence Bruins. Potentially on Saturday night against a team that he hasn't played for but played against, the Syracuse Crunch. Wednesday's game here at CAA Arena, Saturdays at the Upstate Medical University Arena in Syracuse. And Brock and I are going to tee those ones up for you here before we say goodbye on this week's show. It's an unfamiliar opponent, one that the Sens haven't seen in over 2 seasons now, and a extremely familiar opponent providing the opposition here for the Sens this week. Let's start with Wednesday as we look at the Providence Bruins, the first time that they have come to Belleville in a couple of seasons, as I mentioned, and a team that so far to start the year not finding outstanding success, but another one of those teams that will always provide a little bit of a problem because they play physically and they are a tough team to beat, as a lot of teams are in the American Hockey League.
Yeah, absolutely. And Providence is one of those teams that, they live by their NHL parent club's philosophy of hit hard and hit often. And certainly the Providence Bruins have those kinds of guys. They got big 6'6", 230 Riley Tufte, who was a former Texas Star, Dallas Star, Tyler Pitlick, a gritty sort. But they also got a lot of talent, too, and guys like Brett Harrison, a former OHL standout. You got Fabian Lysell, who was a key prospect for this Bruins club and still hasn't really found his way to try and get to the NHL. And then quite a few veteran guys in the back end for the Providence Bruins as well. Jordan Osterley, over 30 now. He's been a key contributor in the back end. Very much a quiet, calm sort. Billy Sweezy, former Cleveland Monster. Yeah. That name stuck out to me when I saw the roster. Former Cleveland Monster for quite a few seasons. And then you got a little mix of the young guys in there as well. Guys like Ryan Mass, Jackson Edward, the former London Knight, and Ian Mitchell, former college standout as well. And then Michael DiPietro, a guy that Canadian hockey fans will know from the World Juniors one year. He's behind or between the pipes, I should say. And so it's a balanced attack. But as for the Belleville Sens, they can't really afford to look too far into the Bruins. They got to do their video and their matching and kind of see what the Bruins have in store. It's going to be a very unfamiliar game, and I mean they got to play their same game. Like they say, they can't afford to just stray from that. Doesn't matter who the opponent is, but I think you'll probably see in the first 10 to 15 minutes, much like on the Friday against Toronto, it's going to be a feeling out process because again, the Sens have not seen the Bruins in a couple years. They look much different than when they last met them. So it'd be interesting to see how it starts, but I can imagine that you won't see too much of a high-flying offensive activity going on because of the fact that they just got to get used to seeing the team play. And on home ice, the Sens can dictate the pace as well. So they'll, keep dumping pucks in and chasing and just laying the body and trying to match the Bruins at their own game.
Yeah, the start's going to be key. Not that Belleville's had bad starts so to speak this year, but getting off to a good start on a Wednesday night at home is going to be imperative. It is Halloween game night on Wednesday, should mention. So if you're coming to the game, make sure to wear your best costume. There's some prizes up for grabs as we celebrate Halloween a day early against the Providence Bruins. And a lot of question marks about the opponent, but I think you've got it bang on there, Brock. And if we ask Dave Bell a similar question, he's going to give us likely a similar answer that, yeah, the Senators just have to focus on their game plan, the things that they've been doing well over the last 2 weeks to help them to a excellent record to start the year of 3-1-0-2. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So just keep on plugging away and using those play styles and strategies that have worked against the North Division for the most part here this season, as we get our first look at the Providence Bruins coming up on Wednesday night. Tickets at Ticketmaster.ca or BellevilleSens.com for the box office hours. And then on Saturday, it's a second visit to Syracuse, already a third meeting with the Syracuse Crunch. So basically half or more of the season series between these teams, I think, is finished by the end of November. They'll play 8 times against each other, and this will be meeting number 3 on Saturday. 2 close games, one really close game in Syracuse, and then a game here in Belleville where maybe the scoreline didn't quite reflect how the Senators played that night. A 3-goal differential, but it really was a tight game until we got into the late stages there the other week here at CAA Arena. So the Cruncher are off to a 4-3 start. Belleville at 3-1-0-2, both sitting with 8 points, and already, Brock, not even 10 games in, we're starting to look at these critical divisional matchups and opportunities that you have to take points directly from the teams that you're battling with in the standings.
Absolutely, and Syracuse is kind of given Belleville a taste of its own medicine somewhat. Again, still early in the season series, but already have more wins against them in 2 games than they did in 8 last year. So it almost seems like that was kind of a bad memory that was somewhat vanquished for Syracuse already from last season. The guys on the team last year, they may not acknowledge it openly, but they'll have in the back of their heads that this Belleville Sens team dominated us, and hey, we got to be on top of our game against this team because we know how they play, and it's got the same coach and quite a few of the same players as well, for that matter. So they got to push themselves ahead of the game a little bit, and they did that in the last 2 games. There's a shootout win, so it's kind of a coin flip. But then you get into Belleville, and yeah, quite a few penalties in that game from both ends. And in the end, Syracuse just won the battle. And Derek Pouliot, one guy to watch out for. He had a couple of goals against Belleville in that game on the 20th of this month. So it was last Sunday, just over a week ago. But they had some injuries to deal with as well, so there's no excuse. And Syracuse didn't have Gage Gonsalves, but they did have guys like Jamel Smith and Gabriel Sturck, and they also had Max Crozier in the back end. Dylan Gill, too, is off to a really good start. Former QMJHL standout from the back end, scored a couple goals in his first game, and Pouliot, like I said, had a couple as well. So it's offense from the defense. It's going to be key to watch for the Sens from the Syracuse point of view this game. And another guy that hasn't been in a bit is Daniel Walcott, another one that's very dangerous to watch out for. And we'll see if the Syracuse Crunch can keep their winning ways going against the Sens. But again, Belleville, I'm sure will take what they learned from those first 2 games and realize that Syracuse is a team that doesn't allow a whole ton of room to the middle of the ice and really tightens things up, and that's what's caused a lot of trouble. Just 3 goals in 2 games for the Sens, and mentioned some of the defense as well, the offense from the D. Pouliot, Gill, Declan Carlisle's a good power play quarterback. Roman Schmidt's another one that is just coming up from junior. Steven Santini's a vet, so it's all about trying to bust down those walls because it's going to be difficult when you got those kinds of guys in the back end. And then you got 2 really capable goalies in Brandon Halverson, and Matt Tompkins, a former Canadian Olympian, and Joel Bouchard's a former defenseman. So isn't that fitting how both David Bell and Joel Bouchard, 2 former Hard Rock defensemen in pro hockey and in junior, how fitting is it that the Sens and Crunch play a very similar style of defense?
And Belleville has seen the shootout 3 times already in 6 games this season, so no surprise really that the guys are now working on some shootout moves here at the end of practice. Belleville is 1-2 in the shootout. They had the shootout win against Toronto, a shootout loss against Toronto, and then the first shootout loss in Syracuse, as Brock and I were just kind of talking about. It sucks to lose games. It sucks to give up a point here and there, but I think the Senators have to be pleased with how tight the games have been and the fact that they've been into the shootout 3 times and are not just dropping games in regulation to start the season.
No, that's right. And at this stage of the game, you can't ask for anything more. Just bank points early on and get as many of them as you can, because you know they're going to end up paying off and spades down the stretch in February, March, and April when that playoff picture starts to formulate. So the Sens, taking points against them is against teams like Syracuse and Toronto so crucial, even though you'd much rather get the full complement, get the wins, and just make it easy on yourself down the line. And, these games certainly are huge against divisional opponents, and Belleville has acquitted themselves well against teams like Syracuse and Toronto, even though they haven't yet beat the Crunch. Third time may be the charm on Saturday night, because, again, that shootout game could have gone either way, just like the ones on the weekend. Toronto wins one because of a couple of posts, and then the Sens win one when they run out of room trying to get in on Leevi Merilainen. So it's one shot here, the other there could end up making a difference. So it's going to be crucial to try and keep banking those points early on.
Absolutely it will. Again, Wednesday night, Halloween night, so wear your costume to CAA Arena. And we've got some prizes up for grabs for the best-dressed fans. Doors at 6. Puck drop set for 7. The only visit of the Providence Bruins to CAA Arena this season. So if there's a Bruins fan in your life that might want to get out and see them, make sure to let them know, or just buy them some tickets and surprise them. Ticketmaster.ca to get your seats, or head to BellevilleSens.com. Get more info on group offers, premium experiences, box office hours, and more. We will thank again our guests this week, all the post-game interviewees from last week. We had, who did we have? We had Matt Highmore, we had Keean Washkurak, we had Leevi Merilainen, we had Malcolm Subban on the show this week, we had Brock co-hosting, and you guys were listening, and we really appreciate that. One more reminder to rate and review, and we'll talk to you next week on episode number 8 of Season 3 of the Belleville Sens podcast.